to actually like knots.
That's awesome. I mean,
I'm
I think
thinking,
that's usually
yeah.
what it is with Disneyland is it's the nostalgia, right? Because it's so magical as a kid.
Yeah, because I mean, growing up, I've come to appreciate the other parks as an adult, including Universal too. I like Universal, but it's just so freaking far.
You know what's interesting though? So you mentioned Knott's. I didn't think about Knott's because I'm not a huge fan, but Knott's is run by Cedar Fair, and Cedar Fair has a bunch of parks across the U.S. and one of them is Cedar Point. I went to one time when I was going to a wedding over in Michigan. We ended up driving down to Sandusky, Ohio, and they have Cedar Point, which is like right on the lake, one of the Great Lakes. Best rides in the world, no lines. It's a completely different vibe. There was like no lines for anything, but some of the rides are right up against Lake Superior. It looks like you're going to the lake when you're going down the ride. It's crazy. If you ever have a
Nice.
No
chance,
thanks.
if you ever go out there, Cedar Point was actually one of the best theme parks I've ever been to.
Oh, well, there you go.
Alrighty. Should we hop in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. How you doing, everybody? Welcome to Afflixionados podcast, episode 52. We're available wherever you get your podcasts, with new episodes dropping on the first Saturday of each month, 5 a.m. Pacific. If you enjoy our content, please consider giving us a like. All of our social accounts are conveniently bundled together for you in our link tree, Blue Sky. We also post there too, so go check us out. My name is Eric, and the other voices occupying your head this time are a devoted mother of three, lab geek, comic nerd, retired emo, HBIC, my sister and co-host Stephanie.
I'm surprised my title didn't increase in length this time. I'm expecting it to get longer every time. Anyway, yo.
And we also have a returning special guest whom we last saw in our RoboCop episode. Please join us in welcoming back our longtime friend and brother, Cameron.
Hey, thanks, man. Pleasure to be back. I like the Independence Day episode. Love the RoboCop episode. Honestly, I'm surprised my title's not longer though, because I am a devoted father of four, breaker of change, first of his name, Lord of the Andals and First Men. I mean, come on, dude.
Here on Afflixionados podcast, we mainly talk about films that range from mind-numbing to mind-blowing. We also cover TV shows and other forms of media. As always, we'll be getting into spoilers here, and there will be only the healthiest amount of expletives tossed in. You have been warned. If you ain't ready, then get ready, because in this episode, we will be discussing the legendary, the revolutionary, sci-fi action thriller Jurassic Park, released in 1993. Thank you for the theme. Directed by Steven Spielberg.
No, this is a fun one. What's interesting is as I was telling you before we even got on, well, before we started recording, but while we were on together, interesting little note before we had started is Steven Spielberg actually secured the rights to this film with Universal before the book was even published. He'd been working with Michael Crichton, who also did some work on the show ER. They'd been working together, and asked him what his next work was going to be, and he had said, "I'm working on this book, this Jurassic Park." Kind of gave him some of the synopsis, and so Steven Spielberg went to Universal immediately and said, "We got to buy the rights before anybody else does." And it went into a bidding war with Universal and Warner Brothers Studios before it ever even got published. And keep in mind, Michael Crichton had already written Westworld, which then became a popular show much later. But Westworld was an amazing sci-fi book, not too off topic from what Jurassic Park does. Things that are created that go awry.
That's true.
Cameron mentioned earlier, a film based on the 1990 novel of the same name, written by Michael Crichton. And thanks for teaching me how to say the last name, because I was like, I don't know how the fuck to say that. Krypton.
Michael Crichton.
So Jurassic Park was a massive critical and commercial success, a surprise to no one, becoming the first film ever to gross over $1 billion.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, obviously, it's been surpassed since then, but back at that time, man, that movie was raking in the dough.
Yeah, it probably doesn't include all their action figure sales and T-shirts, things like that, all the paraphernalia, but that's pretty awesome.
I feel like it brought in such a wide audience because it had, the dinosaurs, it had some thriller, it had some sci-fi, it had kids. Like, it just brought in so many people.
I kind of noticed it rewatching it recently, was that it was definitely kind of like a family movie, but it's also like kind of a horror movie. Like, it has horror elements.
Exactly. I remember growing up thinking of it in my mind as a scary movie. in my kid mind, it's a scary movie.
That's because you think of yourself as one of the kids. I thought of myself more as like a T-Rex, and so for me it was more of like a redemption film.
You identified as a T-Rex?
Yeah, I was like, you know what? If I was a T, I would chew like that. I would chomp down on a car and try and eat children.
You would have killed that guy, yeah.
Yeah, I would have killed that guy.
Totally bite a guy on the toilet and shake him around a little bit.
Yeah.
Man, imagine how this movie would have been if like someone like James Cameron ended up directing it. That would have been wild.
Michael Bay.
You know what's funny actually? So yeah, James Cameron was one of the people that they thought, hey, if WB gets this, then James Cameron would direct, and it'd be a different film. But what's interesting is I forgot to mention this. They made video games on this movie, like for every console imaginable. And I think it was the Jurassic Park video game for Sega Genesis. You could actually play as the Velociraptor.
Yep. Yeah, you played as like the hunter or the Velociraptor, and
Interesting.
oh man, it's like a little side scroller platformer game. And
Yeah,
I hated that thing. God, I hated that game. But everyone had that game, so I always had to play
But
it.
you had to
That's
play if you
funny.
did Velociraptor, you had to like kill guards.
Yeah.
You just go through chomping on them, dude.
So before we actually hop into the movie, we can't go any further without also giving a shout out to John Williams for the fucking awesome and instantly recognizable music in this movie.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Pretty much all the themes throughout the movie, iconic. I love
Yeah.
them.
It's one of those ones you hear it, you know exactly what it is. There's no doubt about it. You could hear it on guitar, on piano, orchestra. You know exactly what that is. So
Dude,
it's pretty good.
you sang it, during the intro with your angelic voice.
I doubt that, but yeah.
All right, so kind of like what Steph was mentioning earlier, like how this movie was terrifying as a kid, well, certain parts of it. It starts off really scary, but then it gets lighthearted, and then it gets scary, and then it gets lighthearted.
The beginning of it is fun and it's exciting, and it's like the idea of going to a park and seeing dinosaurs is exciting.
Well, that's not the beginning. The beginning is you don't have any context. You see this cage, and all you know is there's some sort of beast inside of it, and they're trying to like transfer it through this gate, and shit goes awry. You got like that dude in the hat, and it seems like he's kind of like the one that's overseeing the operation. There's a lot of guards. Everyone's kind of like on edge.
Everyone has tasers.
But that's what I also love about the movie is that there's a slow reveal of the dinosaurs, and there's a specific order in which they show them because they save the best ones for last.
Well, isn't that the horror element of things? Is they show you as much as they can without giving it away, so that your mind can kind of connect the dots on what it might be.
Oh yeah.
In the same vein of like M. Night Shyamalan not showing the aliens in signs until you finally see them, and then when you finally see them, you're
That's
like,
stupid.
oh,
Yeah.
what the fuck? That's a
What-
dumb alien.
What the hell is that? Yeah.
But the whole movie, you're like, what?
That pantry scene terrified the shit out of me.
Dude, when he
I know.
has the knife under the door.
Ugh. I know. When you say signs, I think about the pantry scene.
Every time, yeah. I mean, honestly, that's the best part of the movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're right.
Cameron, when you rewatched it recently, you said you had to turn on the subtitles, right?
Oh yeah, I'm 40 and I can't hear.
I didn't know that he was screaming "shoot her" for like the longest fucking time until like maybe high school.
Oh, what'd you think he was saying?
I don't know. I thought maybe he was just like he was saying something in like some foreign language.
Wasn't he Australian? That's how it was, a foreign language. He was like, shoot
Shoot
her!
her! Shoot her! Yeah. That alone is also kind of a recognizable quote from the movie. I also want to mention that during this like intense opener, it's one of those ones that's like nightmare inducing as a little kid.
Yeah, really.
You can see that they had tasers, and he really, like the guy with the hat, he really did not want to actually kill it. Like he was like doing everything in his power to like save the guy that got like sucked in or is like getting dragged into the cage. He's trying to save him when he's like discovering that like, oh man, this guy's done. Plan B, let's kill it.
For sure.
So there was a lot going on in just like this little 5-minute, whatever, like 6-minute scene. And yeah, I thought it was great.
If you rewatch that scene, when the guy tumbles off the cage, like the top thing and like falls off, you see the cameraman's hand come up to like block himself and or the camera.
What? No shit.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you see any other goofs, make sure you point those out. That's really interesting. I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch that scene.
Well,
I
there's a really
know.
cool one I'll point out to you when we get to the main dinosaur.
Oh, okay, for sure.
I got a cool one for you.
After that opener, then we're transported to Costa Rica. What's going on over there?
Absolutely nothing.
No.
The end.
Oh, wait, is it in Costa Rica or they're like on a different island
They're on a
near?
different island near Costa Rica.
Okay.
Well, they're actually the film was done in Hawaii, right on Kauai,
Right.
but the island that they called in the film is Isla Nublar, which is like the Isle of Nublar. But what's funny is you meet in that first scene after the opening, obviously that was kind of like horror, but you meet John Hammond, who's played by Richard Attenborough, who had just come out of retirement just for this film,
Oh,
Really?
interesting.
which is really cool. Yeah, he had retired at 54, didn't do any films, and then came back into working for this film and the subsequent film that came after it.
Wait. He retired from acting after doing no films?
No, no, he had acted for like 54 years,
Okay.
completely retired, and then only came back for this film, like at 70.
Wow,
That's pretty sick.
that's cool.
And you know who
Yeah,
his brother is, right? You know the guy David Attenborough. He's the one that does all the
yeah.
"and here in the
All the
natural
nature,
habitat of this creature."
all the nature narrating or whatever.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, he does all that stuff, like
I thought that was
life on
just
planet
AI
Earth and shit.
generated.
Huh? That's a real dude. But you know who was gonna play this character, and who would have been badass? Sean Connery.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
They were in talks. Can you imagine? Welcome to Jurassic Park.
I could actually. Now that you
Yeah.
did that, I could see it. At first, I was like, "Oh, that's gonna be stupid." Get the park back online. And he's just like, "I'm doing my your best."
Your best, your best. Losers try their best. Winners go home and fuck the prom queen. Um, no, so do you remember that movie, The Highlander?
Yep.
Sean, Sean Connery is in that movie, dude. And his character, I gotta look up his character's name. He plays a
A
Spaniard,
Spaniard,
but
but he has
he
like a
doesn't,
Scottish accent.
he doesn't change it at all, dude.
No.
It's hilarious. His name is Juan Sanchos Villalobos the Third or some shit.
Yeah.
And he does it in the most Sean Connery fucking accent ever.
Yep.
Sounds terrible.
So can you do a Spanish accent? He's like, "Fuck no." Hired. No, actually, when you said guess who almost played this role, I thought you were going to say the other person from Highlander.
Christopher, Christopher Lambert, fucking Master Raiden.
Yep, that would have been terrible.
All right, so we meet John Hammond, right? And he's the creator of the new attraction Jurassic Park.
Apparently, he's a really rich dude.
He's like our version of J. Paul Getty, right? Like he's this movie version of like J. Paul Getty, spares no expense, but wants everyone to like have full access to this beauty and art that he's created.
I also like, thanks for bringing that up. I also like that that's kind of his catchphrase, spend no expense. Like he says it throughout the
Yeah, he
movie.
says it over and over and over.
It gets sadder as he says it throughout the movie.
He's like on his deathbed, and they're like, well, "What kind of coffin do you want?" And he's like, "Spare no expense."
Spend.
Why do you lay these troubles on an already worried mind?
So yeah, after that, we're introduced to Lewis Dodgson, played by Cameron Thorpe.
Yeah, he wants one of the inside people at the park to basically give him something. He gives him a big bag of cash basically and says, "Hey, sneak some stuff off the island for me."
Gotcha. Okay.
And I don't know, I can't, I just rewatched it, but I can't remember if they actually say what he's supposed to get or if you
Yeah,
just, do they say
yeah.
it?
He says that they want
The eggs.
embryos. I don't think he says what kind of embryos, but he just says that they want the live embryos. They have to be live,
Yeah.
and then he demonstrates the little
Oh, the canister.
Yeah.
the shaving
Yeah,
the
the
shaving
shaving
cream
cream.
can.
That was really cool. I actually
And
really like
how,
that.
yeah, that was really cool. Yeah, I was like, oh, that's cool. And then when he demonstrates, like, oh, they can even try it and it'll work, and he demonstrates how spray shaving cream. I was like, oh, that's cool.
It's important to also note that the person who he's doing this transaction with is some guy named Dennis Nedry, or Newman for short.
Right?
Now, played by Wayne Knight.
You know what's funny? Actually, now that I think about it, is he gives him a can of shaving cream that's not like a real can, like it opens up so he can hide the embryos in it.
Right.
But like, who the fuck is taking shaving cream to work?
I know, and it just
Like,
sits there on his desk.
why wouldn't it be like
Yeah.
a
Next
to
soda
his
can?
computer.
Like a soda can would make sense, or a
Yeah.
thermos. And this razor also turns into a flash drive.
Actually, that'd be kind of cool too.
All right,
That's like
so
They
those
didn't
are
have flash drives then, guys. 1993.
They basically wanted to sneak like any embryos, but I think he was saying like, hey, you get a boatload of money if you can get like one of each. And so he's like, say less, fam. That's basically what's going on with that transaction. But I like it because you don't really know who either of these guys are. It just like drops you right in the middle of like their little like transaction that they're
Yeah.
doing. And so you're like, okay, well, I guess these two are going to be important later.
Pretty much.
You kind of learn that the park has been active but not open to the public for, it seems like, quite a while, because these are like fully grown dinosaurs that you're going to encounter at some point.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is because of the incident that's already occurred, Hammond basically says, yeah, I'll get a team of people out here to basically prove that it's kind of safe and that we have full control of this.
Mhm.
And so
The
that's when he
endorsement.
brings in, he brings in a paleontologist, a paleobotanist. I don't even know what Dr. Malcolm's title is. He's
a
like
mathematician or something at some point.
so very different, but his is more about proving that chaos is gonna occur, right?
Chaos theory.
Yeah.
He's like obsessed with chaos theory.
Yeah.
Before we get to those characters, I did want to mention that there was like a throwaway line that he kind of like says under his breath at the very tail end of that transaction scene. That was Hammond's mistake. You know, I'm going to make you a rich man if you can get all these embryos. And he's like, well, that was Hammond's mistake. And so that is going to foreshadow later on.
Yeah, because he talked like later they talk about like he keeps talking about, oh, you don't pay me enough for this or something like that, and you know Hammond's kind of like, oh, you're bringing this up again, kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah,
it's kind of a tumultuous relationship, it seems like, that they have with each other.
Clearly, they do not get along, and it's clearly about money.
This like Donald Gennaro guy, played by Martin Ferrero. What is he exactly? Like, he says a lawyer, but he's like an inspector too.
No, I think he's an attorney that's basically like
that
trying
represents
to safeguard
the investors.
the interest. Yeah, safeguard the interest of the park, because obviously Hammond didn't do this all on his own. He's got shareholders that if the park doesn't get off and running, they don't make any money, and so it's like, okay, prove it's safe to me.
So is he only there to see what the experts that are being brought in say about it, or like is he actually doing some inspecting himself?
I think he's waiting for the experts.
Okay.
Yeah, he says he's the one who's like bringing in some inspectors, and Hammond's like, or they're like, oh, Hammond doesn't like inspectors, it delays things, and that guy's like, oh, well, pulling the funding would also delay things. Would you like that kind of thing?
Mm-hmm.
And he does the whole head bob too. Like,
yep.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, mm-hmm.
Snaps his finger.
When they introduce this Gennaro guy, and he's like talking to I think like one of those other like paleontologists, or I don't know, some sort of digger or something, because he's like, yeah, Grant's just like me, you know, he's a digger. But they're talking about Dr. Malcolm here because they're talking about like they need to bring in investors, and we want Grant. Can you get Grant? And he's just like, Grant's not going to do this shit, you know, like, you're crazy. You're better off getting Dr. Malcolm. And they're just like, well, we can't get Dr. Malcolm because the investors think he's like too unpredictable. And so that's why they want someone that's like better equipped for this situation, like Dr. Grant.
But they bring Dr. Malcolm anyway.
That's what I think is important to mention that later on, because everyone seems surprised when they finally run into him. They're like, what the fuck are you doing here?
Yeah.
Unpredictable.
Now we get to see the two main protagonists, Dr. Alan Grant, played by Sam Neill.
Knock off Pierce Brosnan.
How dare you? Dr. Ellie Sattler is also played by Laura Dern. So the two of them are kind of like partners, and they're working at the same excavation site. As you said, Cameron, Grant is a paleontologist and Sattler is a paleobotanist.
Yeah. And the whole thing is like, it seems like you get the sense that the lady with purple hair in the Last Jedi.
No one saw that movie. That movie's ass.
Yeah, that's her. That's Laura Dern.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, she
I'm just messing.
She reminds me of someone in this though. She's a knockoff somebody else though.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I thought. I thought besides Jeff Goldblum, all these people seem like a knockoff of another better actor.
Yeah, like when I first saw her, I was like, oh, is that in my mind? But
I'm actually curious who you think she has a knockoff of, because I actually really like Laura Dern.
Well, you are the one.
Damn.
I'm just kidding. Sorry, Laura, if you hear this.
Yeah, no, she was great. She was great.
But what's interesting is you can tell that even when they're coming onto the site, because they eventually track these people down, they get them to agree to come. They kind of entice them. And while they're coming, it's clear that they're trying to make the park seem much safer and much more practical than it actually probably is. just in an effort to try and get them to be, a positive force for Hammond.
If you're going to be dealing with such dangerous animals like dinosaurs, then you want to make sure all your I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
Yeah.
But it's not like Hammond just shows up and is like, "Hey, we need you guys," and they're like, "Cool." He has to convince them.
Yeah.
Grant he likes to do things kind of like traditionally, and they're kind of using computers to scan the ground before they dig, and so he's just like, "Oh, fuck computers. I don't like them." And it's funny because Sadler is like, "Well, the feeling's mutual." And I wasn't sure if she was saying that she also doesn't like him or that computers don't like him.
I think she was saying the computers don't like him.
That's what I thought too. Yeah, I thought that was funny.
Because they
That's a
seem
nice
to get
little
along
dig.
just fine.
She's patient with them, and she gives them a lot of shit. But there's also almost like a romantic kind of like tension between them too.
Yeah, I would agree.
Until Hammond shows up and he's just like fucking blowing dirt all over the place, and so they gotta cover the bones and everything. He's like basically like burying them again.
Yeah, he like helicopters into their dig site.
Like right on top, yeah.
Yeah.
He hops off the helicopter and then just like helps himself their champagne.
Yeah, he like steps on like 3 like small dinosaur bones on the way in.
These bloody bones? Who put these here? He's very rude, but he feels that he can kind of do that with people because he can just throw money at people and then they usually are on his side by the end of the day.
So I got a different vibe. I thought it seemed like, I think he's got this thing where I think he thinks that his level of excitement will then excite the other party. And I think he's relying on his excitement to get them excited for what endeavor they might be able to go out and do. I don't think it's necessarily the money thing, because he clearly doesn't care about how much money things cost.
No.
I think it's more about like, I'm excited about this. Why aren't you excited about this?
But he also has to convince them by throwing money at them.
Correct. But they want the money for their other efforts, right? They're not using it for themselves. They want it for their future dig sites.
What got them to say yes was, "I will fund your dig for like the next 3 years." And so they're like, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
They're all about their work. They just love dinosaurs.
Yeah. And plants.
Nah, fuck plants. Plants are boring. Imagine if it was a Jurassic Park, but it's like just Jurassic plants.
Just plants from that era.
Yeah. We're eventually introduced to Dr. Ian Malcolm, played by the one and only Jeff Goldblum, as they're like all together in the helicopter, right? So we got Hammond, we got Sadler, we got Grant, we got Gennaro, and then we got Malcolm. And everyone is just one big happy family.
Are you not going to do any of the voice?
Maybe later for a specific scene.
Okay.
Yeah, and it seems like to everyone's surprise and annoyance, right? They're like, "What the fuck is Dr. Malcolm doing here?" Because everyone, I think, seems to have the same notion about Malcolm, is that like this guy is kind of annoying.
Yeah, I think so. I think they think that he seems like self-centered or full of himself as well.
But he clearly seems to have this ladies man vibe going on too.
He was definitely shooting his shots. He was kind of like testing the waters with Sadler.
And Hammond.
He's like, his hand's like on Hammond's thigh as he's like talking to Sadler. I feel like I don't know, that could also be like how he thinks of Sadler. Like he doesn't take her seriously because she's a woman, so he's just like, "Oh, you're just here for eye candy." So that could be another element to his personality.
Perhaps. I don't know.
I don't think he necessarily thinks he's just looking for another woman for himself, kind of thing. Like he mentions he's always looking for the next ex Mrs. Malcolm or whatever.
Could be, but also I do feel like he does kind of look down on them for what they do, because he's just like, "Oh, so you guys dig up bones, huh? That's cute."
Yeah. I think he looks down on everyone. I think he's a self-centered, egotistical person. He portrays it very well. So.
Oh, and yeah, he calls himself a chaotician, which is, I mean, yeah, it involves the whole chaos theory. You can't cover all aspects. Like you can try to be as prepared as you can in every regard, but there's always going to be like some sort of unexpected outcome that is going to just like fuck everything up. He's here to think about that aspect, the elements that you can't prepare for. Like you feel like you can have like all of your safeguards and all shit. Life finds a way.
I think it's one of those things too, like given no positive inputs, given just things working the way they are, everything will eventually unravel and become chaotic. It won't stay orderly unless you have an input of creating order, right? It's the same thing with society. society is orderly because we have a police force, we have a military, we have these, but you take those away and eventually chaos will overcome because people do whatever they want. And that's just the way
I
nature
would
is.
even say with those in place, chaos can still happen.
Right.
That's kind of the
Yeah,
idea. Is
yeah.
like it's kind of inevitable in a way.
And his whole thing is he's talking about from like a natural state, just like nature in general, without having an orderly input, nature will be chaotic.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
So
They fly overseas and they make it to what's the island called?
Isla Nublar.
Something I noticed too, which was kind of like a small detail. After landing on the island, the camera focuses on the helicopter taking off, like slowly just like lifting up. And I thought that was kind of interesting because from what
It's
I
gone.
believe is happening, yeah, is that it's not just for realism or continuity, but I think it's to drive the point home that this is the only way on and off the island for our protagonist, and that there's no going back. Like they're fucking stuck here for a while until we see that helicopter.
Correct. I think there's one more other way off the island, but you see that with Nedry later on, but it's not a good way off the island apparently. So
Yeah, and apparently they just have random like dinosaurs in the shrubs, the ones that aren't typically as dangerous, I guess.
yeah, and then as they're driving up or walking up, or whatever, they get to see, like, because of how tall it is, a full size adult Brachiosaurus.
um, I like two things here. I love the fact that the lawyer immediately goes pro park as soon as he sees the first living dinosaur, but also how the fuck do you not see this thing long before you drive up to it?
Right.
Well, they're flying in, so you don't look at the ground while you're flying in. You're only looking at the air.
They're driving up in a
I'm
Jeep
just joking.
and they don't see it until they like look up and they're like, "Oh shit, there's a dinosaur there."
That you see this from the point of view of all the men in the vehicle. I bet you Dr. Sattler saw this like as she was pulling off the helicopter. But remember, there's like four men in this car, and you know how we are. We're fucking oblivious, bro. Like you could put a dinosaur behind me while I'm on the podcast, and you'd be like, "Hey, Cam, there's a dinosaur." I'd be like, "What?" So yeah, I don't think
It's
that's
all
out of
like
the
in your
norm.
lap.
I don't think it's out of the norm that these guys didn't see it driving up. That doesn't strike me as odd.
Especially because like these are at least like a couple of them are dino experts, right? And so they're like super excited. They're like, "Wait, you got living dinosaurs here? All right, let's check this shit out. I gotta see this for myself." And then so you feel like they would be on the lookout, like, "Is that a dinosaur? Is that a dinosaur?"
No, they're awestruck because they're like, oh my God, it's not just bones. I thought it would be just a bag of bones.
So yeah, I thought that part was pretty cool. It's kind of dramatic as well because it like shows it from that wide shot and it's like reaching up at the top of the tree to grab that one leaf.
You want to hear something funny about the dinosaurs, actually? Now that we're on this part, this whole movie is about dinosaurs. If you didn't know from the title, Jurassic Park, right? But so Steven Spielberg, he directed Jaws,
Yes.
and have you ever seen the pictures of him standing next to like the destroyed shark?
Oh, what? No.
Yeah.
So there's pictures of him like standing next to the shark that's like all beat up and destroyed, but mind you, it's fake, right? And so somebody found those images and like posted them online and did like a fake article about how it was animal cruelty.
I've seen the one. I've seen the same one of him and the dinosaur.
Well, wait. Well, that was what's funny about it is it was just a joke, but then people started making real posts about how this is why we can't have nice things, and this is why the animals in the ocean attack us is for shit like this.
The disrespect.
And then somebody responded and said, "Hey, if you think that's bad, look what he did to this dinosaur."
Oh my God.
And a bunch of people started commenting on it, like,
What
"This
an
is why we
asshole.
don't have dinosaurs anymore."
He was the extinction event.
It's so good.
That's so
Anyway, I'm
dumb.
sorry. We can go back.
Yeah, I've seen it where it's like, oh, here's a hunter standing next to the last. What was it?
Brachiosaurus, Stegosaurus.
Yeah.
And that's one of the
Like, really?
animatronics.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's him
it's just-
standing. You know the
yeah.
one that's like dying,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
she decides to stay behind. It's that one.
And then it's that hunter guy. He's like, shot her.
Shoot her.
So this is another part that I really loved about the movie was that because they're showing different elements of like what the theme park is going to offer, right? So now they're going to give you a little backstory on like how this was done. And it's got like a fun little graphic and video package and everything. I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Like a little mini ride, right? So it locks you in the seats and then it plays the video. And Hammond apparently has to be present and like interact with it personally, because like there's this whole bit where he's like getting poked by the video or whatever, and it like draws his blood.
Yeah, and basically it's kind of interesting because it's like twofold because it draws his blood, but then it tells you on the video like how they made these dinosaurs and what they used is like prehistoric DNA from mosquitoes, right?
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
you learn that like this is how they've done it, which is interesting because they only ever show like one mosquito in amber, but they
Yeah.
made they
Well,
made like
technically
every
two.
dinosaur.
Technically two, because I don't know how many of those are preserved in that fashion, but yeah, they have the one that they showed in that dig. Also, at the top of Hammond's cane is also one.
But you don't know if that's the same one or not. You know
I
what I mean?
doubt it's the
Like,
same one,
you know what I mean?
but
He's like, no, give it to me. But yeah, but to make them, they had to use the DNA from other animals to make them viable, which is where they get frogs and other mammals and reptiles and things like that to fill in the gaps of the dinosaurs' DNA and genome sequencing.
Dino DNA. Yeah, I think it's kind of designed for little kids to be able to come on the island and enjoy themselves. And so it's like giving them like a little like educational lesson on like how dinosaurs are created on the island. So yeah, I really liked it. It was a nice
Yeah,
touch.
I agree.
Gives us a little, as the audience, it gives us the little backstory
Hmm.
and
Seems plausible, right? Makes sense.
It gives you an idea of like, okay, I can get behind that their dinosaurs exist and here's why, right? It's enough to fill in the gaps for your mind to
Yeah,
go, that makes sense.
it's
Yeah.
not
yeah.
ridiculous. Yeah, not too far fetched, and it's kind of showing the audience that like, holy shit, this might actually work. This park could actually be a thing.
Yeah.
I think they mention it either there and I think again later on that because they want to be able to control these elements, they make all the dinosaurs female only, so they can't reproduce on their own.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So that's once they like break into that lab basically from the ride.
Supposedly in the book, there's more to it. Like, not only are they supposed to all be female, but I guess they're supposed to be like I guess like chemically infertile or something like that. But they're
Sterile,
also
yeah.
only supposed
Mm,
to, yeah, they're supposed to be they're supposed to only be able to eat the food on the island or they'll die.
damn. Okay,
So if they leave the island,
that's a
they
safeguard.
will die because they yeah exactly so they because they can only eat the food on the island.
So there's some sort of like nutrient that they infuse with the plants that keeps them alive, that like or
I
suppresses some sort of
guess.
like
Yeah.
poison in them. Oh, interesting. That's actually kind of cool. I like that. Makes sense. So this was a dope part too because then we get to witness not only like the process of like incubating dinosaur eggs, but we actually see one hatch.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
cute.
little baby velociraptor.
Oh, the baby.
This is showcasing very impressive animatronics for this baby raptor. It looked realistic.
Yeah,
I
it
loved
did
it.
look really good.
You asked for it, Cameron, but life finds a way.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is they didn't go with animatronics early on. They tried stop motion first, but it was so awful the way it looked that he was not happy with the result, and that's when they went with animatronics and their first time CGI.
Damn. Yeah, that's like very early
Wow.
CGI.
Yeah.
That was probably from like Industrial Light and Magic, huh? That did
Oh,
that.
for
Yeah,
sure.
because
Because
I mean they're the
things
only
they've
ones
been
doing
doing
that
too.
shit back in the day,
Yeah. Yeah.
or at least good ones. Anyway, I thought it was great. I loved it. This is where the Caltician kind of comes in as the pessimist, and he's just like, I know that we can do this, but should we be doing this? Like he's the one asking these questions, like, what's gonna happen once we lose control of these dinosaurs?
Right. Like he says it right out of the gate.
Everyone else is, I think, enamored, like especially Grant and Sadler are enamored with this dinosaur because like, holy shit, this is a fucking dinosaur close. But Malcolm is, he's like less enamored with the whole like mysticism of this little tiny dinosaur, and he's just kind of like, guys, what are we doing here, really? This is kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
We're playing God here.
Yep. I think he even says that. I think he even tells Hammond, "You're playing God."
I think he starts like slowly convincing Grant and Sadler over time, like as he's like expressing his concerns. But yeah, they were extinct for a reason. That allowed us to evolve past that. But then it's like now we're like reintroducing them, and what the hell is that going to look like? Like how's that going to affect our ecosystem?
Yeah. Right around that same time, for no reason at all, fucking Hammond's grandchildren just show up, and they're like, "We're here." And it's kind of crazy that for no reason at all, he has like kids at a park that he's trying to get vetted properly for safety.
Yeah, it's not even like set up completely, but it's like, yeah, go ahead and send the family. But yeah, maybe he's either that naive or he's that confident that it's gonna work.
Maybe both, right?
Or he just has a bunch of money so he can just be like, I'm gonna fly you in my personal private jet and helicopter, and no one's gonna say anything because I have a bunch of money.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
can just throw money at the dinosaurs,
I
and
mean, that's the definition of hubris, right?
Yeah, exactly, and it's gonna get everyone killed.
oh, also another small detail here that I thought was really cool. So Grant perked up when he saw the dinosaur because everyone's just like, "Oh, it's cool. It's a little baby dinosaur. That's awesome." But Grant goes over to the I think the that like lead scientist guy, and he's just like, "What is this?" That's a velociraptor, and he's like, "You guys have velociraptors here on in this park on the island?" And they're like all just nonchalant, "Yeah, yeah, we got plenty of them." He's putting so much focus on it because it's not his favorite dinosaur, but because he understands them so well and respects them so much that he fears them the most, even more so than a T-Rex.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think he's like really intimidated by like the potential of having adult raptors.
because they're apex group predators, right?
Right. You saw like his fascination with them when he keeps that claw in his pocket,
Yeah.
raptor claw, and like he was like trying to scare the kid, like, yeah, what if they like disembowel you, by slashing your gut. He was doing all that to like just like kind of put the kid in his place, but I think you see more elements of why he keeps that little claw with him is because these motherfuckers are dangerous, and we just don't know how dangerous they are yet, but we will.
Right. No, it was very well done, and he does. It's interesting. I was joking with Sam Neill about Sam Neill earlier, but he actually does a lot of acting in this movie with his like eyes. His facial expressions give away a lot of what he's thinking, because when he like you said, when he picks up a dinosaur, he almost has like it's a look of awe, but also a look of like, why the fuck would you do this?
Definitely. And I didn't catch that
Yeah.
until I saw it this time for this episode, where I was like, as a kid, I saw this movie a million times, and it's just like, yeah, whatever, baby dinosaur, that's funny.
Yeah.
But I wasn't like asking why he was studying it so intensely, and what the fuck could happen if we have a whole group of velociraptors walking around.
And it's kind of funny because they're I feel like the movie does a good job of like showing you a dinosaur and not showing you a dinosaur, showing you a dinosaur and not showing. Because
Hinting, right?
the very like next scene is they get on the Jeep all together and they're gonna go out and see like in some wild habitats some dinosaurs, and they like see nothing for so long,
Zero dinosaurs.
like zero dinosaurs.
And it's like an actual zoo, which is I love that attention to detail, because these dinosaurs are not just going to be fucking waiting around for cars to show up and like, hey, look at me.
Right.
They're off doing their own thing.
So they're like bored until they see the Triceratops.
And that's after they get out of the Jeep and decide to walk around.
That's another cool element of the attraction, is that they have automated like self-driving Jeeps that you kind of like go on a safari in, and I thought that was dope.
Yeah.
It's kind of ahead of its time. It's got
Yeah.
like a little like touchscreen TV built into it, and whole roof is kind of like taken out, and they just put like glass on top so you can
Yeah.
panoramic views of everything.
But it does look totally unsafe from like the moment you see it, you're like, wait a second, this is like plastic caging.
I was a little surprised as to why those Jeeps didn't have like roll cages at the very least, because
Right?
it shouldn't be fucking caving in on stuff when it flips over. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
It should be able to hold up like a T-Rex weight.
Yeah.
No way.
But it doesn't.
No.
Nope.
So yeah, we got little Timmy, we got Lex, who are also part of the party now. So this is fun because Grant is notorious for like being like whatever about kids. Like he's just yeah, I'm fine without him. And so like the kids immediately they take to Grant, like they want to be friends with them, and they're like talking his ear off, and he's just like, listen, which car are you gonna be in? Well, I'm gonna be in the one that you're in. Fuck. All right, go ahead in this one. And he just closes the door. And then like he turns around and Lex is right there, and she's just like, hey, what's up? Sadler said that I should ride with you. So I thought that was cute, like the fact that she set Grant up like that, but also the fact that eventually we're gonna see this dynamic change.
Yeah. It is a big part of character development. They have to show the growth of the character from not liking any kids to really only liking these kids, but liking them a lot. So,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, they go on this tour. They finally get out of the truck or the Jeep, and they encounter a sick Triceratops. And I think Jeff Goldblum makes like a comment about like that's a huge pile of shit or something like that. I don't remember the exact quote, but
Again, Dr. Malcolm he's not as into the dinosaurs as the rest of the crew. He's like standing a few feet back, and he's just, all right, listen, guys, should we get going, or you guys are still doing this whole paleontology thing or whatever? They're like enamored with this Triceratops. They get to touch it and they get to like see like a full grown dinosaur. And also, this is kind of like down Settler's alley, right? Because she deals with the botany and like these are herbivores. And so she's like, well, what's making us sick? Is it the plants? And so she's concerned in that regard. Grant he's fascinated in a different way because he's just like listening to it breathe, lifting him up as it's like taking breaths, and he's like a kid in a candy store. They're both so giddy for this opportunity, and I thought it was really endearing.
Did you see the meme where Dr. Grant is like laying on Jeff Goldblum's stomach?
Yeah, I did see that one. I was jelly.
He's like breathing. But yeah, he's there. Dr. Sattler is very concerned with the sick dinosaur, right? And Dr. Grant is like enamored with the fact that again, it's like just a dinosaur in real life exists.
Mhm.
And so they're determining like what their next steps are, and then it's about that time that like a storm starts coming in, and it's kind of interesting because in the movie the storm comes in, and that's what kind of delays some of the things they have going on. But in real life, at that time, there was a hurricane hitting Hawaii, and it was probably one of the worst ones ever, at least at that time.
Wow.
And so it's crazy that the movie has that. And so there are certain scenes in the movie where like they're showing the hurricane, and they
it's real
use it for the
footage.
film.
It-
Yeah.
Oh,
Key and I right there. I was also thinking the same thing. Do you think they wrote that into the story because they're like, well, shit, we're already getting like torrential downpour. Might as well make that part of the story.
I could see that somebody like doing a quick rewrite and just going, hey, this is what's going to happen. I don't think they actually filmed during the hurricane because it was already damaging a bunch of their equipment. But I could see them going, hey, that makes sense as to why things would go wrong.
Sure. Yeah, I could see that too. Also, another thing, would you be fucking touching a dinosaur tongue with your bare hand?
hell no.
I won't touch my dog's tongue with my bare hand.
You wouldn't?
Right? I
No.
would touch my kid's tongue with my bare hand.
I like how your kids are like so disgusting. You're like, oh, get away from me. I was just thinking, like, I'm thinking Komodo dragons and how there's something in their saliva that part of what makes them be able to catch prey is that I think it like paralyzes them. So I'm thinking, like, what if there's something toxic in the saliva and she's just
Dude.
fucking like touching the tongue?
Have you ever seen the Komodo dragons that like choke themselves to death because they eat things that are too big for them?
Whoa, no.
I'm not joking. There's like videos of like a Komodo dragon like trying to eat like a wild boar, and it's too big.
It's
and
trying
it,
to
like,
anaconda that bad boy?
Yeah, it like chokes itself to death. And I'm like, why the fuck would you do that? There's like 8 of these left in the fucking world, and they're like, no, I'm gonna eat a giant boar.
It's like the pandas that like won't reproduce and they're like fucking falling out of trees, landing on their heads. They're bonking themselves.
Or all the koalas that like have like chlamydia.
Oh my god.
Yeah, like every like I think it's like 90% of the koala population has an STD.
Holy shit, I didn't know about that.
They have fun.
Question for you guys. This might be a little dark, but what do you think a dinosaur would taste like if you cooked one up?
Oh, delicious, probably.
You think so?
Lizard.
Probably
Gamey.
gamey, yeah. Maybe like an alligator, you think?
Turtle, alligator, yeah.
That's what I was thinking. I've never had one, but
I had snapping turtle jerky one time. It was not good.
Oh,
Oh.
okay.
I was immediately disgusted.
Where'd you get it from?
This place, there was a place over in Ukaipa, and it was called Country Meats or something like that. And she had all kinds of jerky there. She closed down soon afterwards.
oh,
Oh, I wonder
maybe
why.
it wasn't good. Yeah. She was like, this is grandma.
Oh my god. She found like roadkill and was like, yeah, this is turtle. All right, so after the Triceratops, where are we at? Now we're reintroduced to Dennis Nedry, and we find out what he does at the park.
lordy.
Yeah, isn't he like their head engineer?
Yeah, he like programmed everything, the self-driving cars, and all the automation in the park. It seems like he programmed all of it.
And the security systems, right?
Yeah, and like the electric fences. It seems like just like everything. And they're like, and Samuel L. Jackson over there is like, oh, the headlights aren't working on the car. Nedry, what the fuck? And he's like, y'all don't pay me enough for this. And then he gets into an argument with what's his face Hammond again over like, y'all don't pay me enough for this shit.
Really, you want to do this right now, Dennis? You want to go back and forth? All right, let's fucking do this.
Yeah. So we get some of that dynamic right there.
It seems like Dennis is not the most popular staff member there.
Yeah, he
Well,
reminds me of one of my supervisors.
Damn.
so yeah, so Nedry is super disgruntled, like, and he's not disgruntled in like a aggressive manner. He's disgruntled in kind of like an asshole manner, where he's just like, well, if I'm not gonna get what I want, then I'm gonna do this. And he like the whole point is he's like, I need these embryos from this storage room, so I have to shut down all the security systems in the entire park.
Yeah, and he sets a timer where like everything kind of shuts down in sequence for 18 minutes or whatever, and he's just like, "Oh, there's gonna be some stuff going on for 18 minutes. Please disregard," kind of thing, and he just goes on his way.
And I think it's there. Isn't it during that time that he actually does get the embryos, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
In the Barbasol can.
I mean, it seems like the
Yeah.
plan's going to go through, but the issue is that the
But then the
systems don't
hurricane
come.
hits.
Yeah, the systems don't come back on.
Well, because of the storm, though, right? Isn't
Yeah, I
it
think
the
so.
storm, the system's going down, and during that time, a bunch of the creatures naturally escape and break through certain fences. That even if they came back up, the wiring's not even connected on
It's
some of
too
these
late. Yeah.
encampments.
Mhm.
Like the T-Rex gets through the electric fencing, the one of the like what the raptor enclosures, like
There's a minor detail about that. So they're looking at it and they're trying to figure out like, well, why the fuck is everything going down? And it's like, well, remember Dennis mentioned, and he's like, well, shit, what's his name? Arnold, right? Like the Samuel L. Jackson's character.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Ray Arnold and Hammond are like, everything shut down except the raptor enclosure. Why the fuck would you do that? So that's again foreshadowing. Even though he was willing to take a risk on the other dinosaurs, he absolutely was not going to risk anything with the raptors.
Right.
yeah.
I forgot about that.
You know what? I don't even want to talk about the raptor parts of the movie just because
They're so awesome.
it's scary.
Are you a huge Raptor fan?
They're scary.
Yeah, they're pretty terrifying. Although we're coming up on another terrifying part, and I feel like
Yes, I don't want to talk about that scene either.
Well, wait, this is a cool scene, right?
Let's
so
just skip the scary parts.
they're in there. The storm is raging. Power's gone out. Electrical fences are disabled, and they're sitting. It's honestly, this is like an iconic scene because they're
is.
sitting in the Jeep and they're looking at this cup of water because
so
the ground
sick.
is like rumbling.
Right.
The ground is like a
Yeah.
boom, boom, and as this ground rumbles, that you see the water like just shake in the Jeep,
The ripples.
Mhm.
and they look over and then they kind of like don't see it at first, and then they finally like catch glimpse of it and they're like, that's a fucking T-Rex, and it's massive.
Really like making you earn it, right? Because earlier we saw that they have the feeding goat and like nothing's happening, and so the goat's like sleeping at this point, and so when they see the rumbling and they kind of hear some rustling, they look over and the goat's gone.
And the chain is just swinging.
Yeah.
They look up and then the goat leg just lands on top of the Jeep. And then you see it.
So terrifying, dude.
Yeah, no
I love
thanks.
this part.
And then the T-Rex just literally like starts attacking the vehicle, right? And what's crazy is, so here's the part I wanted to tell you about is, so during the storm, the actual storm, the hurricane, some of the animatronics were damaged. And one of the things was damaged was the distance by which the face would move and the limbs would move on this T-Rex. And so when the T-Rex crashes through the top of the Jeep where the kids are at and they scream, that wasn't supposed to happen.
Whoa, what?
So their scream is a real scream because it was only supposed to go so far, but it actually like crashes through the roof and breaks its tooth if you watch it. So their screams are like, they're like, no one told us it was going to crash this glass, blah blah. Like, that's cool, and that happens in a lot of films where you're like, oh, something crazy happened. Nobody was hurt by this, but can you imagine how terrifying that would be if you're an actor and you're like, okay, no, it's not real, and they're like, all right, it's going to come this far, you're going to see it. They do training because they're kids, right? But then it doesn't go as planned, and this thing is literally like coming fucking straight at them.
Yeah.
So it's a great scene.
It's going
well
rogue.
done.
I quit the movie for them. I quit, guys.
Yeah, it's like that's probably what like traumatized them, and they just stopped acting after that.
Yeah.
See, notice neither of those kids were in any movies after this.
I think Timmy has been in something recently.
I think so too. I think Ariana Richards was in a film before that, but I don't think she was in anything afterwards, as far as I can remember.
I'm gonna look her up.
But yeah, so they attack this Jeep and it ends up, injuring Malcolm and completely just demolishes the lawyer, Gennaro, right?
Nice. Yeah, fuck that guy.
And
Yeah, okay.
that's when you find out that like Dr. Grant, Lex, and Tim all get away together.
this was like an interesting scene because Grant knows what to do. Like he's calm, cool, and collected under pressure, right? So he sees that the kids are kind of in
This
trouble.
made me so
The
mad.
kids are kind of in trouble, so he's like, fuck, they need to turn off the lights or whatever. And so he's gonna draw aggro, right? So he busts out with the flare. He's like, here, go get it, and he throws it into the forest. And so the T Rex is about to follow it until Malcolm gets fucking involved.
The whole reason that anyone has to do any flare anything in the first place, though, is because Lex busts out a freaking flashlight for no
Right.
freaking reason whatsoever.
She wants to see what's going on.
Like, if they would have all just stayed still,
Which,
everything would
by
have
the
been
way,
fine.
added to the scariness of it, right? Because she puts the flashlight on and it like flashes right into its face,
And the
and the
eye
face is
dilates.
like right there. Yeah.
So, like, everything's fine, and they could have just been quiet, and maybe the T-Rex would have just walked by. But she just grabs a flashlight and decides, let me just turn on this flashlight and shine it in this T-Rex's face for no freaking reason and draw its attention.
This is a stupid kid being dumb, but it's like, this is why you needed one of the adults in that car with them so they can tell them what to
Yeah.
do.
Well, I mean, they had, what's his face, but he ran out and, ran to the bathroom and left the door open.
Gennaro.
But anyway.
He left us! He left us!
Idiot. And then, that's when Grant gets out and, gets the flare and tries to distract the T-Rex. And then I guess Malcolm decides, I'm going to help him, and also grabs the flare and gets himself hurt or whatever.
He tried to play the hero, yeah. But the thing is, he doesn't even know what the fuck he's doing because he's running away from it. So it already has the momentum of chasing him, and he throws it, but like he's still moving. The thing that Grant did was he stood still and threw the flare.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was his mistake. Well, Malcolm's mistake.
Yeah, because Grant knows how a T-Rex works.
Right. Theoretically.
So well, yeah.
I don't know how a bioengineered T-Rex would be, but...
Well, I mean, we're assuming, for the sake of this movie, we're assuming he's right, that he's the expert, right?
Right.
So, he stays still, he throws the flare, and T-Rex goes after flare. Great. But then...
He lights the forest on fire.
That's the least of their worries. That actually might be in their benefit.
I know, right? Just burn it all down.
When you initially saw the movie, did you think Malcolm died right here? Because he just gets launched, right?
Yes. I think everyone did, right? And then you find out later
I also thought
injured.
Tim died. Yeah. I thought Tim died. Because before... where like they're hanging over the edge of the thing, they have the wire, and Lex is on Grant's back, and he's like, grab the wire, and then the
Tim's
swinging back and forth, and the car, Tim's still in the car, and the car goes over the edge, and I was like, is he still in the car? Like, did he just die?
I think a lot of people kind of forget about that. Yeah, this was awesome too because in the original Jurassic Park ride, they actually had that car sliding down part. And they took that out since they switched it to Jurassic World. But man, that part was awesome.
What a terrible film that was, though.
Jurassic World.
She outruns a fucking dinosaur in high heels.
In high heels, yeah.
I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to this. So Malcolm's been tossed.
Tim may or may not be alive.
And the kids have escaped they've escaped with Gramp. We finally see that.
Yeah, I know. They're all.
And then we
left.
get like a cut to Nedry's driving in his Jeep like at full like Mach 2 fucking through the rain, not even like you can't see anything.
Yeah.
And he ends up like crashing his car.
My thing too is like, doesn't he know the layout of the island? And like he doesn't know whether to go left or right. He's just like, oh.
I don't know, because he crashes into the sign and like the arrow turned and he doesn't know which way the arrow's going anymore, and so he just like spins it. And he's like,
out of frustration, he's just
Total Newman.
Idiot.
It's kind of enjoyable because we don't like him anyway, and we know what he's trying to do, and so we're just like waiting for him to just get his right, and he does.
I think it's a great way too. I think it's a great way because what it does is it shows that he's, despite being smart at what he was doing, he's dumb about the park, right? He has no sense of where he's at in the park, despite the fact that it is raining, it's pouring outside. But at the same time, he has no sense of what dinosaurs are dangerous and which ones are not. And so he encounters one of like the smallest dinosaurs on the island, and he's like, "Oh, hey, little guy."
Yeah, he basically has no respect for any of these dinosaurs.
And then like the best part is when it's like its neck like does the thing and like shakes.
Yeah.
And he's like,
fin.
oh, and he starts running, and then it like starts spitting at him and catches up to him.
I mean, to be fair, because we do have actual lizards that do that, right? So like, imagine a giant version of that. That's pretty scary.
Oh, a small version's scary.
It just runs up your leg.
Yeah, no thanks.
I don't even like snakes, dude. Even little ones, like you watch them, and I'm like, no, fuck that, dude. Like your eyes
No
look
terrarium
weird.
room for you.
Same thing with cats, dude. Cats, reptiles. I can't stand
All the
them.
same thing, yeah. Cats and snakes.
Well, have you ever seen their eyes, bro? Have you ever seen their eyes? There's no other animal besides reptiles that have eyes like a cat.
Yeah, it's like a little sliver.
There's slits,
Hmm.
but like lions don't have that. Leopards don't have that.
Really?
No, it's only
Huh.
like domesticated cats. And what do they do when they get mad?
They
They
slither.
hiss.
They hiss. They slither. Fuck you, Eric. No, they hiss like a reptile, like snakes
Right.
hiss. Why do cats hiss? No other animal hisses like that. They're fucking reptiles. Yeah, I fucking hate them. So we find out that Malcolm is fine, right?
Oh, after Nedry gets his?
Yeah, after
Yeah.
Nedry gets his, we find out that Malcolm's okay, and so we get like two. Now we're on like two different stories, right? Like Sattler and Malcolm and Hammond
Hmm.
back at the park, and Grant and Tim and Lex like up in a tree watching a Brachiosaurus like eat leaves and shit.
Right. The T-Rex is basically kind of like the gift that keeps on giving because he already fucked up a lot of shit. And so when the gamekeeper and Sattler show up, to try to rescue them, they don't say anything. They just see like one car that's empty, and then they see like a fence that's ripped open. And so they're like, well, where the fuck is everyone? They find Malcolm, and he's all fucked up. So they put him in the back of the Jeep. They then discover that the car fell over, fell into the enclosure. They go down there to check, and that whole scene was also intense, where Grant has to go up and save Tim from the car in the tree. They have to like race down before the car lands on them, and the car ends up like landing on top of them anyway, but just not crushing them. And so he's like, all right, so here we are, back in the car, which is kind of funny, to kind of break that tension. But yeah,
Yeah, it's good.
Sadler, yeah, they go down there and the car's empty too, so they're like, all right, well, let's go grab the Jeep. We'll go follow the tracks and see where they went. Malcolm, right? He's looking down and it's doing the tremors again, and that's almost like the calling sign for the T-Rex. So he sees
Yeah.
the footprint in the puddle, and he's just like, what was that? I know what that is. I am very unsettled right now, or whatever the fuck he says. They get to the car just in time, and then this fucking T-Rex just storms out of the trees. Oh my god, I would have shit bricks right here, dude.
I agree. Like it's scary enough. Like, have you ever watched like the rhinos that chase cars or the hippos that chase cars in like Africa, and they're running
Oh
fast?
yeah.
That's creepy. Now
Yeah.
imagine it's a T-Rex. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would have actually shit myself.
It's such a tense scene because the Jeep's trying to get speed, and what they say that T-Rexes can run like 35 miles an hour. They have to get up to that, and the T-Rex is already in a sprint. So the T-Rex is like what, a foot away from the car. Who's like front row seat right there? That's Malcolm, right? About to get his legs chomped off. So he jumps back and he lands on the gear shifter, which is also like fucking with the speed as well. And I love Laura Dern's face right here because she has a great horrified look and scream that goes along with this, and I just felt like it made the whole scene.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think she did a really good job. I wouldn't say she's like a scream queen by any chance, but she does do a good job. I think 99% of acting is the facial expressions, which I think Sam Neill does really well as well, but clearly Laura Dern does it also. So it's a very good scene. It really shows that they are afraid. They know that if this thing catches them, they're all dead.
Oh yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
I almost feel like just being around this realistic looking dinosaur would also be scary.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, shout out to that T-Rex because I know that thing was a pain in the ass to work with, but it was so worth it, dude. Like the effects for this movie, priceless and timeless.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's around that same time. So they basically are able to get away from the T-Rex. And like I said, we're doing two different stories now. One with Grant and the kids, one with Sattler and Malcolm. And Grant and the kids discover they basically find dinosaur eggs.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like, what the fuck? They're not
How's this
supposed to
possible?
breed. And I can't remember what animal it is. I can't remember what he says, but I guess there's another animal that was in their DNA that they probably used to like match up the genome.
Yeah, it was like
But
an
that,
African frog, I believe.
yeah. And they basically say like even in a single like lifespan, they can change their sex to make sure that breeding is possible.
Yeah, specifically in a single sex environment, they're able to switch, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, which is
Crazy.
yeah.
And that's exactly what happened here, apparently. So it wasn't one of those situations where maybe like chickens, these dinosaurs can still lay eggs, but they're just unfertilized. But no, these were hatched eggs,
Right.
or at
Right.
least they looked
Right.
like they were hatched.
Yeah, they're either hatched or broken, but it looks like something got out, right? Because it looks like they hatched from the inside out, not something broke into them. What's funny is it's kind of goes along with Malcolm's line of like you said, nature always finds a way.
Yep, exactly. And this is so that I think that's why that line was so important is because, he from the jump, Malcolm was the one that was calling it, like he already knew where shit was gonna go, and everyone else was kind of too caught up in just like the excitement of everything. And
Right.
Malcolm was just like, "Wait, guys, come on. What are we doing here? What are we really doing here?"
Yeah.
Whether you like him or hate him, not Goldblum, because how can you hate him? But like Malcolm specifically, like him or hate him, you got to respect the fact that like this dude
He's
was
right.
the only one that was thinking things rationally from the get
Right.
go.
He was right. And what's crazy is even down to like the people part of it, right? Because he's like basically talking about like chaos theory, things go wrong. Well, the other thing that went wrong besides the dinosaurs and the storm was this whole Nedry thing, right? Because they find out that basically they figured out that Nedry was the one that did this because as they try to figure out how to reactivate the park security system, they get his little feedback loop of and it's like that
I love that.
face going
He
back
made
and
a little
forth.
gif of himself.
Yeah. And so they're like, oh, he clearly did this, but basically they bring in Samuel L. Jackson's character Ray Arnold,
Mhm.
and they try to figure out a way to reboot the whole thing, but they have to like go to separate areas again. So now like separating a third time
Yeah.
to like reactivate the park security.
Arnold is the one that's like, hey guys, we have to go basically across the compound to go like manually restart it. 30 minutes later, he's still gone. So they're like, well, shit, I guess we got to go look for him now and do it ourselves.
And so they go right, and I think it's Sattler and like the main like gamesman, right?
Yeah, Muldoon, which Robert Muldoon, played by Bob Peck. Shout out to this motherfucker because he's a badass.
Yeah, he goes with her, and they basically discover that the shutdown did release the velociraptors, and so they're
Yikes.
gonna like try and distract them while she gets the power back on, and that's when they discover Arnold's fucking arm, Samuel L. Jackson's arm, just sitting there.
What is this false sense of security that this Muldoon guy is like? He's like, all right, it's fine. I got her. I got her in my sights. Go run to the shed now. He's hunting the raptors while like the raptors are hunting them, and so there's like this whole like dynamic going on outside the shed, and then inside the shed, she needs to find her way, and then she eventually gets there, and then she finds it, turns everything back on, but then she runs into a raptor inside the fucking shed.
Right, because there's a third one that tracked her down.
What the hell? Like, how to get in there? And then yeah, that the arm lands on. She's like, oh, Arnold, thank goodness.
And they do a good job of making the raptors as scary as the T-Rex because
In a different way
you'll
though.
see their faces. Yeah, very different, but you'll see their faces and then you hear that like tapping.
Yeah, well, they have like 8 different sounds, which is kind of interesting. Like no other animal has that, but like they have like the little bark and like the little rattle thing that they do.
And they like cock their head to the side like you would see like a dog when they're trying to like think.
Maybe it's kind of like how humans can make different sounds, and we have different languages. So I wonder if that shows their level of intelligence, that like they communicate in different ways.
Right. And that they work as a team.
Exactly. And so that thing's like chasing after her. She eventually gets out. And then we get to Muldoon hunting the raptors.
Yeah, so Muldoon is hunting the raptors, but before he gets it like anywhere with the raptors, she finally does get the power back on. But what's
Oh,
funny is
yeah.
in a prior scene, so Grant and the kids have to like scale an electric fence and
Yep.
climb back down the other side of it. And it's tall, right? Because it's an enclosure.
Because you forget that they're still in the T-Rex enclosure, so they need to get out of it
Right.
finally.
Right. And so at one point he like walks up to the electric fence and like grabs onto it and he like pretends to be shocked and they
That
all
was
freak
funny.
out and he's like, "Oh, I'm just joking." So they start climbing over it, but
So
like
good.
while they're
It's so
while they're all
good.
climbing over it and like Tim hasn't made it all the way down yet, fucking Sattler flips the switch and it turns it back on and he gets fucking blasted backwards like
Yep.
40 feet.
Oh yeah. He gets zapped.
Yeah, it's kind
Mm.
of funny, but
Sattler doesn't realize that like they're on the fence. Meanwhile,
right.
while she's trying to turn the power back on, she figures the quicker I turn this on, the safer we are. But for them, unfortunately, they're in the middle of scaling that electric fence. So,
Right.
yeah, that didn't work out too well for them.
It's almost like all the action like kind of comes at one point right here because it's like the Velociraptor's in there with Sattler. Muldoon's got two that he's like tracking but are tracking him. She turns the power on. Tim gets shot off of that.
So
So it's like
good.
all at once. It's like everything happens in that one moment.
They did also mention that earlier. they had to be very specific about their method of feeding the raptors, because every time they came with food, the raptors would attack and try different points, testing out like different points of weaknesses, right? Vulnerabilities. They said that the raptors were not really organized until like one took lead. It was like a head female. And so I think that's the one that he thinks he's hunting. And so there's like one off in the distance, and he's like slowly like, oh, was he like unlatching like the back end of the rifle?
Yeah.
Which that motherfucker should have already been ready, right?
Like, and let's be honest, we had automatic weapons by 1993. Like, why is he still using like a lever action like 30-30? Like I say, he like Elmer
A
Fudd's it.
musket.
Like, what the fuck, dude? He's like, I'm hunting
He's
weapons.
packing the gunpowder in it and shit.
Yeah, he's like, he's got a raccoon hat that he like flips around.
That's how intelligent they are. Is like the head one is like, listen, guys, I'm gonna be the decoy, and you guys get the jump on him,
Right.
and that's what happens. Yeah, as soon as like he's about to take the shot, that one pokes the head out and doesn't even attack immediately. It like wants to rub it in his face. It's like, we got you, motherfucker.
And then he even says at that point, does he say his line again? Where he's like, clever girl.
Yeah. That's the iconic line, clever girl. Yeah, and he was fucked. So
So Muldoon is now dead, and Grant and Tim's fine, by the way. He lived through the electric shock therapy.
yeah,
And they finally get back to the big main building, which is like the entry like visitor center.
right. Mm-hmm.
And they realize they're alone there, right? They're like, oh, no one else is here right now. And so he's like, great idea. You guys stay here. I'm gonna go look for everyone, and like leaves them by themselves.
Now that dinosaurs are loose, y'all stay here. I'm gonna go look for Sadler.
Yeah.
Why?
It's a nice little touch as well that Tim's hair is all like blown out.
Yeah, exactly, to show like he just got shocked.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, needless to say, as you could kind of guess, as soon as Grant leaves, the raptors appear in the visitor
Like
center
clockwork.
and start pursuing Tim and Lex through the kitchen. And they're like moving in and out of like the behind the big sinks and the refrigerators and stuff.
So I guess this does explain why Sattler also didn't get picked off when she was heading back from the shed, is because they headed into the visitor center already.
Right. They were looking for new prey. And I think this is another iconic scene where you actually like see the foot. You see the foot like stomp down, and then it does that tack, 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 tack.
Right.
And it like clicks its little.
And which could be another form of communication between them, right?
Oh, for sure. But it's a great scene because like you can tell like they're terrified, but their drive to survive is like pretty pronounced. And they get away. They're able to move throughout the kitchen.
Even distracted.
They distract one while locking another one in like a giant like walk-in refrigerator thing.
That scene cracked me up when she distracts one to save her brother, and then she's trying to like pull the lid down, but it's jammed, and so she's like terrified, right? And she's she's like losing her shit, but the raptor sees her reflection and runs into the little like cabinet next to her, and so she runs off, and Tim, he's trying to hide in the freezer, but the raptor's chasing after him. And Lex is just running with her eyes closed, arms outstretched. That shit cracked me up so bad, dude. But I mean, what are you gonna do? You like, things aren't making sense. You're just doing like what you need to do to survive.
Yeah, it's fight or flight, man. Your parasympathetic nervous system takes over, and you're like, I'm out of here.
Definitely. Hey, they got the job done though. They locked one away, and they can eat that one later. Also, it's important to mention how they get into the kitchen, because apparently they figured out how to use door handles.
Yeah, but that's very much unlike the aliens and Signs.
Yeah, they just get their fingers cut off. But
yeah,
I think it should have kind of focused more on that, because it's not just like a matter of like, oh, let me try this little silver thing here. Oh shit, that opened the door. They should have struggled with it, like maybe clawed at the door, and then once it opened up, they're like, oh shit, bro, I know how to do this.
But what's weird is it's an actual like turn handle.
Yeah. No, you can bet your ass that they switched all the door handles to door knobs after this. When they try to remake the park, they're gonna like, no, first thing we're gonna do, change all the door handles.
I think there's like a sketch, like a guy that does sketch comics, and he like does them online. God, what was it? Like xkcd.com, and he does a lot of like mathematician comics and but one of the things is about velociraptors, and he calls them velociraptor entry points. And it's like pictures of his house, but every window is a velociraptor entry point.
Oh my
And so he has
god.
pictures of his doorknobs, and they're all like the old brass, like you have to actually like click the button in to turn it, like baby locks.
Nice.
So yeah, it's pretty good.
Or you mean like the little Jason locks?
That's, he had such a hard
He,
time. He was
he
like,
couldn't get past it.
Cameron, how do you open this door?
He was like trying to like manhandle it, like squeeze it with all his strength, like oh.
It was like 2 buttons. So anyway, they finally make it back together, right? So they get back to the control room. They're able to restore all the park systems. They contact Hammond, who ends up like calling in the helicopter.
Finally.
And so they're like, oh, finally, like we can make it off the island. We can leave. So they're planning on like getting out. And while they're planning on getting out, they're cornered by both the velociraptors, the 2 left
Oh my
that aren't in the
god.
freezer,
Yeah.
and the Tyrannosaurus Rex like coming at the same time. And you're like, what the fuck?
Again though, like how did this T-Rex just pop in out of nowhere without them noticing, right?
Because that's how the writing was done.
That's how they wrote it.
What if like he was like pretending to be the skeleton in the middle and he just like popped out from behind that? This was cool though. I mean, because they almost gave the T-Rex like its own character in a sense where it became one of the unlikely protagonists of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, it
That's
quickly,
true.
I want to say, I don't want to say quickly, but fairly quickly dispatches the 2 raptors
Yeah.
and gives the whole team a chance to basically get into another Jeep and like book it to a helicopter. And so you're like, okay, well, maybe the Tyrannosaurus Rex is actually like the hero of the day for now.
At least for that moment.
It's T-Rex bones that are on the cover of the box art,
Yeah,
right?
it's the logo. Yeah. It didn't intentionally save them, but like it just worked out in their favor because the Raptors focus their attention on the bigger threat because they're like, well, we can play with these toys later. We just need to take out this real threat here. And so they attack the T-Rex, and that's when the T-Rex defends itself. Even has that triumphant finisher where it like rips that one off of its back and throws it through the bones, and then it roars and the banner like lands on its back. And I was like,
Yeah,
man, that was sick.
yeah. It's like a full on like the banner like floats down.
Yeah.
It's really cool looking. And then I think if I'm not mistaken, like as they get in the helicopter and they like fly away, you like hear the T-Rex roar, right?
Oh, do you? I didn't catch that.
I think you do.
I
I'll have to
thought so
rewatch it again,
too.
but I could have sworn at the very end of the movie, like as they're flying away, it like pans back to the island and the T-Rex is like does its like titular T-Rex
Damn.
roar.
This is my island.
Yeah.
Doesn't the name mean like King Lizard or something like that?
Uh Tyrant Lizard.
Tyrant
Yeah.
Lizard. Okay. Pretty badass though. Yeah, and I like the fact that it was wrecking havoc earlier, but then they take a breather from the T-Rex and then he pops in later and you're like, fuck, that's where he went. Because you kind of forget about him for a little bit. You're too distracted with the Velociraptor threat.
Yeah. Or you know it was a King Tyrant or something like that. Yeah, Tyrant Lizard King. King of the Tyrant Lizard. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Basically, another joke, just to kind of cap off the movie, is once they get in the no, I think as they're fleeing in the Jeep, Grant's like, I decided not to endorse your park, and Hammond's like, so have I.
But as he says that, like it pans in on that little amber sculpt like thing on top of his cane that has a mosquito in it still.
He's still smuggling DNA off the island.
Yeah, like he knows what's up. He knows what's up. Who knows what'll happen next? And of course, there was a sequel, and then another one, and then another one, and then a remake, and another one, and another one, and so
Right.
the movie's gone far. And I will say the remake was a good one. It was not as good as the original, but it was good in that they still talk about Hammond.
Sure. Yeah, I did like that aspect.
Pretty good in that aspect, yeah.
I will say that in terms of the original trilogies, they never lived up to the original. I think the original just like it just had its own feel to it. I don't know, it just couldn't capture that magic, in my opinion.
I think it has a lot to do with like what age you were when it came out though too. Because I bet you there's people that are, in their 8, 9, 10, 12, 13 that didn't see this when it first came out, but they saw the Jurassic World when it first came out, and maybe they felt that magic. Maybe they didn't, but I'm sure they felt that magic. But we clearly felt it because it's the same thing that we've been talking about with like RoboCop and Independence Day, and this was when like CGI was becoming like a thing, being used more and more often, more and more
Sure.
often, and your mind basically we were then told like, hey, anything that you can think of can be created.
Discipline your mind.
Yeah, this was one of those things where it's like, hey, somebody thought this up. This was a book just 3 years ago, and now it's a full feature film. That's kind of crazy. So,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And but the thing is, like, did you want to see more Dr. Malcolm? Could he just carry his own movie in the Lost World?
no, no,
Carries.
I don't think so.
I definitely don't think he can carry his own movie. The only way I would want to see more of him is in weird gifts.
Weird clothes, maybe no clothes to be exact.
Just his stomach breathing.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, we did kind of like pass over that, but when he was in that control room, why the fuck was he sitting up like that? Shirt open.
I honestly think that somebody was like, you know, it would be sexy. You're gonna be the sex appeal of this movie.
Oh god, that
Because
was
I mean,
probably
honestly,
Steven was asking him that.
so he was it. I mean, it's either him or Newman.
And that is a wrap on Jurassic Park. If you made it to the end of our podcast, then it's now your job to go feed the hungry velociraptors. Closing thoughts or comments?
I just think that it's great to be able to talk about phenomenal film, phenomenal storytelling, and be able to make jokes about it, have fun with it, talk about our favorite parts of it,
Yeah.
and still pay homage to it in the proper way where there is a level of respect for what somebody else created, and be able to participate in some way in how that made us all feel. So
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah. How about you, Steph?
What he said.
Well said.
Thank you. I'll take credit for those words.
And have you guys watched anything lately, film or TV?
watching that show, The 100, on Netflix. It's like old, I think, but it's binge watching, and it's not bad. It's convoluted and predictable, but fun.
Very nice.
I watched a Korean drama. That was fun. I'm watching the most.
Mom got you into those?
I mean, ever since the first one that she watched a million years ago, I'll watch them every once in a while, but I don't get, I'm not all addicted like she is. Since they're on Netflix now, it's a lot easier for me to watch them because Mom gets them with Japanese subtitles. But I'm watching the most recent season of The Boys.
Nice. Really quick, I just wanted to say I saw Longlegs on Hulu, which is like a horror movie. I don't know if you guys heard of that one.
Yeah, I've heard of it. With like Nicolas Cage or something?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess that's kind of like the big reveal because they don't really show who that person is until later. It's pretty trippy, but not my favorite. It's all right. It's fine to see once. I also saw Captain America: Brave New World in theaters.
Oh, I have seen that.
And I think that was way better than people gave it credit for. People were shitting all over that movie, and it wasn't that bad at all.
I too saw Captain America, and I felt like I expected more out of it. For me, I felt like the trailer made it look like it was gonna be a lot of things. Like I thought it was gonna be like really bleak. I thought it was gonna be really epic, and I felt like it was kind of like meh in a lot of ways. Like I didn't hate it. I liked it, but I just thought it was gonna be more of a lot of things.
They kind of fucked that movie over with the effect because they revealed the Red Hulk. Like that's like the end of the movie, and I hate when they spoil the end of the movie. But the thing is, a lot of people probably wouldn't have seen it had it not been for that. They probably felt that they needed to market it in a different way, and it was unfortunate.
Yeah.
And with that said, you can find us wherever you normally get your podcasts. New episodes drop on the first Saturday of each month, 5 a.m. Pacific. If you like what you heard, leave us a like, comment, or subscribe. Thank you for listening and joining Cameron, Stephanie, and myself. This has been Aflixionados Podcast, episode 52, Jurassic Park. And all of you guys, the listeners, put the sick in Jurassic. Anyway, we gotta go. We'll see you all next time.
It's Ichishiro San Yungo.
Like a phone number on a commercial or something.
It was like 10-10-3-2-1, but like remember that when like instead of calling collect, you would like, oh, I'll call 10-10-3-2-1, but it was in Japanese, and so literally Ichishiro San Yungo.